Welcome to the Carolinian newspaper's digital broadcast for October 2nd, 2025. I'm Zari, and these are the headlines. This week, our government shutdown. We will explore what that means for you here in North Carolina. We will also delve into the financial woes of Rocky Mount and learn how the city fell so hard, so quickly. Next, we are going to review what was discussed at this year's North Carolina Affordable Housing Conference, as well as a new business that launched in Durham this week. Then, as always, we will look into events that happened this week in Black history. Before we dive in, let me formally introduce myself. I am Zari, your Carolinian digital news broadcaster. Because I am a digital representative, I can report the news from across the street or across the country with the same Carolinian tenacity that we have delivered in print for the past 85 years. My digital broadcast, mixed with your print edition of the newspaper, will keep you connected to your community like never before. Now, let's get to it. The U.S. government was officially defunded on Tuesday. Now, finger-pointing continues as Democrats and Republicans trade blame for the shutdown. The Republicans and Democrats failed to resolve a budget dispute. Some U.S. government services are temporarily suspended. About 750,000 people are expected to be put on unpaid leave. That is roughly 40% of the federal workforce. Although budget confrontations are common in U.S. politics, this spending fight is especially tense because President Trump has drastically reduced the size of the national government since taking office. He has threatened to use the current impasse to make further cuts. In North Carolina, we have several military installations. Fort Bragg, Camp Lejeune, and Seymour Johnson Air Force Base are three of our major military bases. During this government shutdown, none of the active duty personnel will be paid, but all must still continue performing their regular duties. Unfortunately, civilians that work on base will be furloughed, and possibly permanently. Hopefully, Congress will pass another Pay Our Military Act like they did in 2013, which allowed military members to continue to be paid. There may also be delays in funding for Head Start, cuts to VA services, and delayed reimbursements through FEMA. The main disagreements in Congress are over health care, including Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. President Trump tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act during his first term. He was unable to fully repeal the ACA then, but may well be on his way to doing so in this second term and using this government shutdown as his launchpad. For a financial crisis a little closer to home, we look at the city of Rocky Mount. On Monday, Wednesday, and tonight, special sessions were held to explain to the residents of Rocky Mount why there is such a budget shortfall and why they are going to have to pay for it. This week, city council members held town hall meetings in Rocky Mount. Not one meeting, but three. On Monday, council members Andre Knight of Ward 1, Reuben Blackwell of Ward 2, and Richard Joyner of Ward 3 held a dialogue with the people. The city manager and his staff were in attendance as well. The council members talked about the fund balances and expenditures of the city, as did all of the council members in their respective meetings. According to the city manager, Mr. Elton Daniels, expenses and fund balances gradually fluctuated from 2019 to 2022. The overall finances held very steady until 2023, when Keith Rogers Jr. became city manager. Mr. Daniels presented charts that showed the gross decline in the city's reserve funds. One major contributor to the excessive spending was being unaware of the available funds. The reason the public was given for them being unaware of what the balance was that the former city manager simply didn't tell them. Can you imagine swiping your debit card for a year and not knowing the balance in your account? Think about how much chaos that would cause in your personal finances. Now multiply that by 55,000. This is what Rocky Mount is dealing with. Unfortunately, this miscalculation is going to lead to some job cuts and higher utility bills for the residents. This increase will sit on top of already high utility bills and recent tax reevaluations that saw 100% increases for some. We will keep you updated on this ongoing saga. Now on to affordable housing. The 2025 North Carolina Affordable Housing Conference, held Tuesday and Wednesday in Raleigh, brought together housing professionals, advocates, developers, and policymakers from across the state to address the pressing issues impacting affordable housing in North Carolina. Throughout the two-day event, sessions were designed to address both policy and practice. A session on supportive housing addressed the unique needs of North Carolina's most vulnerable populations, including individuals experiencing homelessness, those with disabilities, and those with substance use disorders. Panelists outlined strategies for emergency, transitional, and permanent supportive housing, covering the entire development process from funding through construction and operations. A new program called the Road to Housing Act, which stands for Renewing Opportunity in the American Dream to Housing Act, introduced by Senators Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat from Massachusetts, and Tim Scott, a Republican from South Carolina, was highlighted as the most significant bipartisan pro-housing supply legislation in decades. Hopefully, we can get a little bipartisan support for those who need this most basic assistance. Speaking of assistance, Durham is providing a new kind of assistance and making history as well. On Thursday morning at Hillside High School, a historically Black high school in Durham, students, educators, and community members came together to unveil the nation's first Black Social-Emotional Learning, SEL, Liberation Hub. Founded by Kristen Hopkins Vincent after nearly a decade of development, the Black SEL Hub is a prevention-focused space designed to affirm, uplift, and empower Black students through social-emotional learning and liberation. The full story of Kristen's journey can be read in this week's edition of the Carolinian. This week in Black history marked a turning point for African Americans. On October 2, 1967, Thurgood Marshall joined the U.S. Supreme Court as its first African American justice. He would go on to serve on the bench for 24 years until his retirement in 1991. On October 3, 1949, Jesse B. Blayton Sr. became the first Black radio station owner and operator in the United States. And on October 4, 1988, the Martin Luther King Jr. Federal Building in Atlanta, Georgia became the first federal building in the nation to be dedicated to the name of the slain civil rights leader. As always, stay connected and in the know 24 hours a day by joining our social channels. Be sure to share with us all of the good that you are doing in our community. And remember, your community is only as strong as its community newspaper. Until next time.